As Summoner Shiromi stands tall and proud with her wand, the girl chants what she had been taught in hopes of bringing forth a familiar word something. But despite all the magic and power of love she pours into the spell, the only thing to respond is a flower. One which is frozen and destroyed by a bully with a hot aquatic girl. Oh, I see. It's one of those series, is it? James is going to enjoy this. She asks them to be patient with her as the poor girl was surely going to summon something good soon. But if she's a summoner, surely she wouldn't mind if they beat her up, right? She could handle herself, right? The teacher entering the scene sure as heck would mind. Regan walks up to Shiromi while silencing her bullies. We then learn about the typical history of the world. I'll save you a headache. Demon Lord's army came to wreck stuff and magic school equals her last hope. But while the training hologram plays, the feed suddenly switches to one of those shark movies that scares every brat until their pants go brown. Later, as her final shot at staying in the academy, she attempts her summoning spell one more time in front of the entire class and her teacher. But while trying to keep her mind as calm as the sea, the shark movie is fresh in memory. Her summon is what one would expect from this. A baby shark. Don't you dare, James. Anyhow, while I keep a close eye on her editor as well, Shiromi is a laughingstock and she's slapped again, getting told to go back to her hometown, the poor girl. But then, Mr. Sharky sees something that infuriates him. That bully with the Aqua Girl summon is leaning in to embrace her. Normies. Oh no, is that going to be a recurring theme? It better not be. The two passionate lovers have their heads taken off by a full-size shark. I'm guessing that's a great white. Both corpses fall to the floor while the other students panic wildly about what just happened to their gang leader. The girl being held by her golem screams something fierce before Sharky comes out of nowhere to gulp her head down too, jaws removing it with a clean slice. This mother trucker is swimming through the floor. Its level 893, the ultimate predatory sea devil, or by nickname, Same. But we'll stick with Sharky because it's easier to say. After it goes full Cthulhu on the rest of the students as a three-headed octopus shark, Shiromi can only stand there in guilt as her dream is ruined right in front of her. Sharky had murdered everyone except Regan, who calls her a spy for the demon army. Shiromi escapes, covered in the blood of those who scorned her, and just keeps running while little Sharky chases its master. With Sharky following her everywhere and ruining whatever he goes near, Shiromi is just slumped against a rock out of tiredness and asks, well, begs him really, to go the flip away. He shakes his head and jumps on her out of love. What did she do to deserve this? Question of my life, lady. With the maiden now having nowhere to turn as the entire kingdom would likely hate her, she wanders through the forest until collapsing from hunger and thirst. Sharky tugs at her clothing with a smiley mouth, but only after a few moments does she look up to see a plume of smoke and glow in the not too distant night sky. She runs for it, somehow finding the energy to make it such a distance in the dead of night. Peeking over the ridge of bushes, there are a few people tied up against a tree while more tend the fire as a big tent towers over the rest inside. She bolts out of the bushes for them, asking for help, something to eat, and of course directions. But oh no. This is a small portion of the Demon Lord's army. Them tied up peeps? Heroes. Ones who yell profanities and to just come and untie them already. Shark, you got work to do. There's the boy, popping out of the ground like it's nothing. But the shark won't listen to her. He won't protect her. So he just shakes his little head and remembers Regan's teachings as a demon sprouts fire from its mouth, looking like a knockoff dragon anyway. But she's not up to giving him any attention, much less love, when he slaughtered her dream. She kneels down after pulling herself together, though as they still would kill the adventurers if she didn't come out then and there. She doesn't, but after a few sweet words, Sharky does. Even the fire-breathing demons don't stand a chance as the big dude just charges straight through it, going super shark once more. Om nom nom. The demon spurts blood, being the squad leader, the bigger one, and the rest of the small fries yell for a retreat since their captain had gotten munched. Being true to his name of the Sea Devil, the rest of them are dispatched in its unholy turn of violence as tentacles whip around wildly at the forest. Straight after he goes up to his master and nuzzles her as much as he can, asking for the pats that she promised him after the fact. He saved her life to be sure, and once they let the snooty adventurers out, they make threats to kill her if it ever got out that they were the ones who got captured by the demon army. But they make the mistake of starting to embrace in front of the shark. Ah, okay, so that's what makes it really angry. Next, Shiromi makes it over to the nearest settlement she can find. Collapsing on the floor while the men working the field call out for help, she wakes up in a warm bed to a kind old man who readily provides food and hospitality. An endless bucket her stomach is. The elder just laughs off her apology for being gluttonous, and she tells him the basic story of how she got here while leaving out the shark. Having not eaten for the entire time she was running, Shiromi was practically starved. She had been scared to death by all the gore left in Sharky's wake, and then she sees it outside playing with the children. Getting out of the house to prevent any pain to those kids, Sharky jumps her from love and lays it heavy with the affection, to which the children just laugh. She warns them that this childish fish is bloody dangerous, and they should never go near him or so much as touch him. The children wander off, and Shiromi later admits that this is quite a peaceful place, loving the atmosphere. But then the bell tower rings high above the houses, and everyone lines up around her to make a path. Oh no, she's the star of the show, leading her straight to another one of those demonic captains, this time on a steed of some kind. This is the sacrifice this time, eh? Quite seedy looking. They hand the village chief a huge sack of gold, easily the old man's height in coins. They had made a deal with the demonic army to hand over any adventurer who comes through as a sacrifice, as you cannot reach the demon lord without going through this forest. The captain of these goons reaches for Shiromi despite the warnings that this was the shark who demolished their former captain, only evidenced by the head of his horse thing disappearing between its huge teeth. Sharky takes his owner back into the village and into the chief's house, which the demons enter and start wrecking. A horror scene comes when one of them is getting pulled into the toilet like it's a meat grinder, because that's not horrifying. Outside, it's taken way too long for them to come back out of the house and report findings, so the captain just says to burn the whole place down. Before they can try, Sharky comes out full force and cuts the captain in half with one bite. Once the betraying villagers are done gawking at the sight of their protection going to the darn wind, Sharky just smirks. He begins destroying everything in sight, leaving the village chief fuming but unable to do much but chase her out of what remains of the town. As she's crying out in a field full of flowers, Shiromi gets tail slapped by the familiar and looks back at him in an angry, cute way, blaming him for everything and calling him awful. But this time, he actually does something useful and pulls at her hair, dragging her back into a stump where a fairy that had watched them run is sleeping in pain. It doesn't take long to realize that she looks like she's in pain. As Shiromi leans down to listen to what she's trying to say, the fairy shows her true colors with some choice language for this gullible human. Her tiny wings spread and a black mist pours off it to flood the area in front of her face. Shiromi suddenly can't move her body and can't take her eyes off this little thing. This girl would become a servant who should be honored to serve such a being as her. Oh really? Wonder how old this fairy is. Either way, Sharky opens wide and grabs her wings between the jagged jaws that forces her spell to wear off, and the tiny bee to yelp out in pain. This was just a joke, lads, just a fairy joke. Her name is Isekai'd, and she's a poison moth fairy. The reason she was trying to get a servant is because no sane person would ever listen to her. There's someone that Egg wants to kill using that powerful shark. Long, long ago, this used to be a peaceful land full of fairies like her and all sorts of, recreational activities, let's say. You'll understand if you read it. But then the harpy woman attacked. Tricky, is that you? No, it's a demon general. One who had burned everything of their land and left only her. They readily agreed to help her deal with this rather poor excuse of a general, as there really isn't a higher level demon than Sharky. Meanwhile, a column of wind rips through the servants who would dare annoy their oh-so-beautiful general as they warn her of the aquatic menace. Isekai'd takes them close enough to the garden that they can see the place laid out far as the eye can see, bushes and hedges in perfect shape, with slaves moving about the fields. But while Isekai'd and Shiromi are talking, ignoring the main girl's life story because it's about as boring as they come, Sharky spots two people about to do something very naughty in one of the fields. This triggers Cthulhu mode, and after he's rampaged a bit, waking the general from her sleep, she flies up to see what's going on in her paradise of luxury, only to find it on fire. This is not fine. Attacking Sharky with wind and throwing him off course, Shiromi tries to peacefully negotiate. And she's mentally insane. Okay. Sharky protects his owner from the blast of wind, Shiromi screaming as the demon general is targeted for her feather-brained antics. Dodging the tentacles and the genre that comes with them, Isekai'd is impressed by Sharky's movement and being able to tank a hit from one of the most powerful beings there is in this world. The harpy gets quite angry at her garden being in such a state, and more confused than anything at what the heck kind of enemy she's facing. Trying to throw Shiromi off his back, the girl lands headfirst in a bush, and on prying herself out, her wand reads 39%. It's then knocked from her hand as Isekai'd and the girl wonder what it could be about. Some demons making their debut on screen with very malicious intentions. After one noogies the life out of her, the counter reaches 58% and all seems lost for the second time. Sharky is now trapped in a whirling tornado which isn't relenting anytime soon. Isekai'd tries one of her cutesy tactics with a voice I can almost hear, while Shiromi is stomped back into the ground while trying to reach for her staff. When the other goons turn to face their friend, he's been caught in the poison and trapped under her spell. With Sharky now lying partly dead in the crater that General made as a grave for him, Shiromi orders that he wake the frick up, samurai, because he got a harpy to burn. He obliges, and in the moments that the demon general thinks she's won, he absorbs her whooshing air into a ball around himself, and the next thing you know, we have a flying shark. This is going swimmingly, wouldn't you agree? Oh, and they even call it Sharknado mode. But with him being able to fly, the demon general is no longer safe. She rages hard about how he dare take over her domain. Blah blah whatever, lady. Weaving around all her attacks without so much as a sweat, Sharky charges straight up with the fury of a cyclone, bolstering his thick fishy body into the atmosphere, getting closer and closer no matter what is thrown at him from the heavens. No amount of wind was going to stop this boy from getting his lunch. But while she's trying to keep her fear from getting to her, she loses sight of him. Where did Sharky go? Where do you think? Above you! Chomp! With that final note, the demon bee is dead, and once Sharky is landed on the floor again, the two run over to check if he's okay, only for Shiromi to get flattened by a full body crush. Hector says goodbye to old depression and memories, and the three move together as a group. Now comes what you've all been waiting for, the beach episode. Around Toyo Lake, the three are having some fun at the water when Sharky knocks her into the deep. Hector is a bit annoyed that Shiromi is acting like such a child when they came here to do something more important, also being shocked that a shark user can't even seem to swim. They were warned not to go anywhere near the lake because the demon lord had unleashed a furious monster into it, one that the three of them would take on for sake of helping the villagers. Hector goes out in search of it while the other two stay behind. The lolly of a fairy thinks while she looks around, trying to piece together why she's hanging around a human of all the races. Well, that's easy because there's nothing scarier than her pet. But at this point, she may as well get her hands on some, unsafe substances that we here at Action Toon do not endorse, and disappear somewhere. But it doesn't take long for an explosion below the water to grab her attention, as a giant crocodile, or gator, impossible to tell, falls flat into the shore before someone. A clueless dude with a bunch of cute girls following him? I don't even need to name the trope here. Tala Naroke, the reincarnated and grandson of a famous mage. His band of brutal girl spick halt with Hector without hesitation, shooing her away from their precious hero who always saves the day. Having no quarter for people like this, Hector drips her blood into the lake, which very quickly makes Sharky appear, and yep. At first, they think a girl is drowning until the horror pops out of the water. One by one, they all die off, Talon casting one of his famous spells. He turns to tell everyone it's okay, and has his arm eaten by a now pissed shark who continues to gobble up what remains of his harem. Head after head, don't take that out of context, they vanish from life like flies, Sharky going so far as to eat whole the magical carriage that was protected by Talon's greatest magical prowess. Speaking of Talon, he lays screaming on the beach of how much this friggin' hurts, and outright he calls the goddess a liar. Invincible, you say? Cheat skill, you say? Yeah, no. Oh look, the monster they're hunting has come out to play. The two-headed beast enjoys its meal of the hero, and after a little more time of terrorizing the land creatures, Sharky spots his new rival and takes care of business. We don't see all of it, but we know who won. Hector and Sharky go back to the utterly clueless Shiromi, and little Miss Fairy decides she's coming with them on their journeys. The royal city is their next stop. Yobong, the capital of a nation. Shiromi's eyes sparkle as her energetic nature takes hold of the group, making Hector have to balance her out like a mother to her child. For now, they would spend a bit of time treating themselves, and first things first. The 5-year-old of a protag wants her pancakes, and she wants them now. Low-key wish I had some. James hasn't let me out of this room in, probably best not to think about that. Sharky and Shiromi have to educate Hector the swine on the love of the delicacy along with the chef that makes them. But her head is forcefully smushed into the food by some guards. Wow, let the girl catch a break, why don't you? They order that she's under arrest, and the three of them would be taken to the palace for the moment. Not even 5 minutes later, and she wakes up to a crowd of people watching, the king himself present and ordering that they start with the public execution. Oh come on, all this because she wanted pancakes? No, not quite. All this is done because she has allegedly killed many innocent people and is a spy for the Demon Lord's army. She destroyed the academy, slew an entire village, and the worst crime of all, replaced the main character in his own story. One of Talon's waifus is looking with fear and disgust, and she tells the story of how her rivals, comrades, were killed by the shark after Talon had subjugated the beast of the lake. The lying village chief testifies through his rotten old teeth that she destroyed everything in their small town to make an example of them for not obeying her wishes. That she truly did work for the Demon Lord's army. The final nail in the coffin is a recording of her teacher, Regan, telling everyone exactly what she thinks about her former student and just how useless and naive she was. The entire class of 21 summoners lay dead because of that damn shark she summoned, and there was no doubt she worked for the Demon Lord's army. At this point, they should just hand her an application. Once the entire town square is chanting at her for being a witch by doing such horrible things, and Shiromi is bawling her eyes out, a guard goes to light the fire underneath her, only for Sharky to come bursting out of the ground. According to her staff, he wants to play, but first he takes her out of danger from approaching guards. While up in the sky, something joins her in short order. While she is now out of the reach of the despicable human race, she's closer than ever to its mortal enemy. Another one of the demon generals. One who totally doesn't sound like Nicolas Cage. And that's their joke, not mine. Flamewheel Zeldin, the knockoff Ghost Rider who has come to burn this little minx alive. And to boot, he's far more dangerous than the Harpy woman ever was. How the heck did he get all the way up here though? By way of the fiery bike he's riding, that's how. Out of the frying pan, into the fire. And there ain't nothing scarier than a demonic general. But wait, what about the city below her? Nah, chief, you ain't going back down there in a hurry. While Shiromi is happy to be praised for beating the previous general, she practically wets herself when he charges her. Sharky ain't having none of this, and he bucks like an old horse who's gotten sassy, throwing the guy off while keeping his mistress safe. She warns Sharky that this guy ain't no pushover, and he should be careful. It growls affirmatively towards her and flies even higher, trying to get out of reach so she can remain at a safe distance. Pulling out his fiery whip, Zeldin wraps it around his prey and traps them mid-air despite the whirling currents that keep him afloat. The castle has a big hole put into its roof by the falling shark, while kingdom soldiers die left and right. A royal man stops his own guards fighting the people they are meant to protect and begins to rally everyone underneath one banner. And he draws his experience. First, him and the king were going to find a way to get out of. No, you aren't. Cowards like you are always the ones to die first. After Sharky chomps him in half, the Cthulhu mode is engaged and all hell breaks loose on the ground as him and Zeldin initiate another battle. His Majesty is going to be crushed by some rock falling from a wall, but Shiromi saves him in the nick of time. She has everyone escape to the back of the castle where there are no members of the demonic army waiting. The only viable route out of this city, while Sharky has a meter charging up again. 30%. Oh, this ought to be good. Zeldin thinks it's time to wrap things up and he practically torches the calamari off the three-headed squid shark, leaving both him and his mistress vulnerable. Shiromi buys as much time as she can, while the king and his men meet a blockade in their escape. Hector is enslaved to Demon present and able to create enough of a distraction for the fight to start. Once the meter is fully charged and Sharky has slapped the snot out of his master, she activates his newest ability, Atomic Mode. So first we have a flying shark, now we have a nuclear shark? What else are we gonna get, a waifu shark? Either way, Zeldin is enraged that they would dare steal his own flame to use against him. Him and Benny, who we can assume is the motorcycle, would take care of him for sure this time. We learn his true ability, eating your enemy's attacks to make them your own. Sharky then throws up a meteor which goes flying sky high and explodes, raining down a literal hellstorm of fiery hail. Zeldin and his bike quickly act to not get flattened by one, but the flaming bits have spread in every direction there is, like toward the escapees. The captain in charge of this little blockade fancies himself something of a big shot, and while I'm sure Spamton G. Spamton would agree, I don't think the meteor fragment falling into his mouth does. That's right, square down the throat to the point that he actually begins to choke on the hot explosive rock. I say explosive because no more than a few seconds later do the citizens, guards, and the king get splattered in the blood from the squad leader as he detonates. The entire kingdom is forced to run from the showering heat that Sharky was too happy to provide, once again ruining everything. Even the paratroopers catch on fire from their ground tether, igniting all the way up its string, burning the cloth that held them so aloft over the rest. Sightseeing is over, boys. Back to hell with you. Even the pancake store Shiromi had gone to, oof. But without much further delay, Sharky gets trapped in a net of fire as the flaring chain wraps around him. It doesn't last for that long as his heat is greater than the general. You cannot melt fire. That is not how physics works. But despite the infamous Zeldin trying to get away, Sharky appears before him and traps the dude in a jawlock. With the general now fighting for his life to prevent the swallowing of him and his bike, Sharky begins to burn him up too. Ignoring some of the choice dialogue here, Shiromi scrambles over and practically begs the general to give up already so that he could escape this torment alive. But fighting battles is this guy's way of life, and if that's how he's gonna go out, he couldn't be any happier than by dying in battle. If he were to get out now, he'd cut her in half, then kill the damned shark, so it's actually better for her if he just dies here and now. Going out with a hasta la vista, everyone runs back in once the demons have scrambled from their leader being defeated. But if you thought a peaceful resolution was coming, well, atomic mode can only really mean one kind of disaster. I'd be surprised if Shiromi got through that nuclear pulse unscathed, much less the other people. Indeed they don't. The entire city is nothing more than a crater now, and the neighboring kingdom is starting to get worried as nuclear fallout drifts from the sky. The kingdom's royal capital has now been reported to be wiped off the map, and we learned that His Majesty had indeed sent for reinforcements, but all of it was moot point. They arrived to a huge hole where the capital was. The only thing they did manage to confirm is that a shark was the one who did it. There is no sane person on the earth who would believe that, but they have no choice. Now we skip to Shiromi, who is adrift amidst some kind of sparkling ocean, a floating lady in a dress coming down toward her. A very beautiful woman tells her to wake up now. He is coming. Who is? Oh, holy, okay. That's one way to get her up and at him. Excuse the pun. Sharky is biting her head when she wakes up, trying to make sure his master is okay. She calls him a bad boy for destroying the castle, and only then realizes that she is nowhere near the land she was just on. No Monica, just sea. There's only ocean. The shark jumps on her, wanting to play, but then she realizes that she has an option here. Using her wand to activate his Sharknado ability, I wish I was joking. They go flying up and only see the sea for endless kilometers around. No land visible even on the horizon. Sharky then falls out of the bloody sky from hunger, consuming all his energy, and she lies hopelessly on the only stone that keeps her dry. Sharky becomes concerned after her depression makes him bugger off, though in a caring twist, he actually goes looking for food for her, not wanting the girl to die. Then he finds a boat, Nom Nom's a human, and goes on a rampage of destroying it all. Back at Shiromi, something from another world, what I think is called a sea buoy, floats nearby with the goddess aiming a gun at her. The flare gun is enough to wake her up from the fiery heat surrounding her rock, but the goddess actually calls her Savior Shiromi, which is a bit odd. She is to trust in Sharky all the way through. Wait, the video glitch that made her summon him, was that this goddess fluffing up reality? Huh. A ship would soon be passing through the area, and the first person she meets on board would help. She wakes up to Sharky bringing her the grill that was on the boat, and all the food with it. How did he get this? Don't ask. Soon enough, a ship does indeed pass through, and the kids go for it within Sharknado mode. But aboard the ship, a rather creepy girl awaits their arrival. Spotting a second ship which dwarfs the first in comparison, Shiromi is worried about the sounds and sights of cannon fire which rips the lesser vessel apart. With the threatened ship edging on sinking already, they would have to be quick to render aid. Aboard, the princess that those men are escorting is so deadpan that she may as well be porcelain. The flying orca of the Demon Lord's navy, one of the largest ships in their arsenal, is chasing down its prey holding zero mercy. The brat controlling it, Davy Show the demon general, meeting a lot of those, huh? Has orders to put that ship into the grave. The demons jump off their ship and aim to gut anyone aboard the smaller one, but a cyclone interrupts them and swallows the goons, forcing both vessels apart while the smaller ship actually sees Sharky swimming around in the vortex. The demons yell to stay together and ride the waves of this tornado. Impossible. The wind is too fast even if they do have anime magic wings. While one of the goons is focusing on stabilizing himself, Sharky kills and eats the rest of them like cotton candy, leaving the last guy to fear at what the heck was going on around him. The girl inside comes out once things have gotten quieter, looking around to see if everyone is dead yet. How enviable, she says. Rachel Gardner, here we come. Is the doll supposed to be Zack, I wonder? Well, either way, she wanted to die, right? Then today is her lucky day as a big shark comes barreling toward her with a ready row of sharp fangs. It scares the life out of her, and for some reason, Shiromi ends up underneath this girl, doing what some in the comments will scream about as indecent. It's a bootleg manga, what the heck were you expecting? A half-decent story? Shiromi is put in the brig with her familiar. Aboard the flying orca, Davy Show says that in order to fight a monster they would use one of their own. Time to open the jar. Out of the massive clay pot comes... Oh no. If Shiromi didn't have enough problems to deal with already, she would now. The two practice their friendship pose and it's almost perfect. Then a little doll-like mummy pops out of the darkness beyond their cage. The girl from before is holding it up and asks the god of death to take her soul to the afterlife. She's T-posing. I love this woman already. Once the girl realizes her mistake, she's super shy and crying about it. She says her name under her breath after the shark laughs at Shiromi's attempts at making friends. And then the tentacle monster debuts from below the ocean. Two men above the deck are stunned and order that cannons be fired. More mosquito bites from an annoyance of prey. As soon as the giant tentacle is blasted with an explosive cannonball, it bursts open the door to the brig and curls around the girl who's grabbed by Shiromi through the bars. The girl tells her to let go as she can just die already. All she wanted was to be dead. This was her destiny. Sharky refuses to help in any capacity until Shiromi makes the biggest mistake of her life. Please, I beg you. If you fight it, I'll play with you a lot. No limit, I'll play with you until you drop. While the commander aboard asks how the hell they were supposed to fight this oversized piece of calamari, Sharky leaps past the ship, easily becoming double or triple its size. Once his jaw is wrapped around the octopus, it's drawn underwater and the ocean surface begins to quiet. The squid blows Sharky away with the blast of ink that sends him reeling back. Sharky is now confused as the squid disappears into the mess of ink left in its wake, unable to spot the combatant. Above water, the crew of our heroes has spotted the Golden Gate Bridge. Nupi, a shortened version of the princess's name, says that the shadow of death cannot be escaped no matter how much you try. To that point, the flying orca is still chasing them as far as they can. This would end now because if it didn't, there was no way that the flying orca would fit beyond the bridge. Shiromi is yelled at by the captain to protect the princess, and she just looks dumbfounded at Nupi. While below the waves, the giant squid wraps itself around the shark and tries to squeeze it to death, covering the eyes of this apex predator. But Sharky don't like being restrained. Shiromi and Nupi run from the cannons and fiery death behind them, the latter saying that death might not be so bad. I don't think the goddess would like that. Sharky then comes up from beneath the waves to scare the living hell out of land dwellers, fighting with Octobatty and destroying the famous bridge with a single bite. The octopus is then bitten straight in the fleshy head. Sharky rather enjoying the sushi taste and going back for a second one to finish it off. He growls something fierce and Shiromi is shocked that her familiar is so powerful. With her trump card, the giant octopus, now dead in the water, the flying orca retreats before it too is eaten by the massive shark, which howls a ferocious victory cry. But when Nupi looks into the shark's eye, she sees that mythical god of death again. Shiromi is practically enlisted by the soldiers to help their cause, and Sharky makes good on her deal of playing by crushing the damn ship. Shiromi is drowning in the wreckage right before we see Sharky save her and Nupi make it to shore, somehow managing to swim in latex. At least I think that's what her clothes are made of, because I can't think of anything else that smooth. Yes, you're still alive, get over it and suffer like the rest of us. Sharky has managed to grab a sea conch and use it as a horn to signal where they are to anyone left on shore. Either that, or he's dancing with the crabs to mark her grave. Shiromi is pulled out from the sand by the princess and the girl immediately starts apologizing for her familiar's behavior, trying to call that he's just a really bad boy. Yeah, one who can kill you at any time. Don't annoy the shark of death. There, see? He's almost taking your arm off. Nupi just looks at Sharky from the side and tries to comprehend something in her head. How can such a being like this, which destroyed a concrete landmark in one bite, be so small and innocently cute? And is it okay if she pets him? Apparently not, because he recoils with a hiss and massive dislike to the stranger getting anywhere close to his precious skin. Poor girl wants to touch so bad that she cries about it when she can't. Aww. The group of soldiers finds them next and tries to make plans for where to go now, as they were on a whole other continent than hers. Shiromi hears this and 5-year-old activates. The poor dude just sighs. For their goal, they had to cross from the land they stand on to the desert and head to a pyramid dungeon. Why would they be going there if their goal was to get Nupi home as fast as possible? Here's the kicker. Their kingdom is under attack, but not how you think. While the kingdom was always a bulwark of economic and military strengths, its leading factor was the king, who certainly isn't a pro wrestler stand-in. But the dude wouldn't let anyone near his internal happiness, even his own daughter. We then get a miniature flash forward to the kingdom after hearing that he's been acting strange. The dude in a royal bath with a bunch of hot girls. A scorpion tail later, and the first one dies after asking for a diamond ring. The rest scrambles as her body falls apart. He has his fun torturing and killing them one by one, only a single girl managing to get to the edge of the bath before zombified hands reach to drag her butt underwater, beginning to eat her. Dark. That's very dark. A hologram video manifests from the eyes of a lion statue, and Davy's show manifests to put on his latest performance. That is to say, the angry sore loser of a captain. His Majesty already knows about ye old shark and will deal with that when the time comes. But for now, he was going to enjoy his bath filled with corpses. The king here is actually a scorpion, shown in the water's shadow, and a huge one at that. We get a flashback of the king putting Basdeath and his own fluffing daughter to death for rebelling against the demon lord's orders. The army he had been lent making their hideous bird-like faces known. They shoot arrows at the king in desperation, hoping that the barrage will kill him nice and good. But alas, this is his villain arc. He won't die from something paltry like pointed wooden sticks. He's gonna kill them painfully for that, and torture the heck out of the remaining soldiers. More try stabbing their khopesh into the body, but the appearance of a scorpion tail puts a stop to the frivolous actions of the human soldiers. Basdeath and Nupi escaped the kingdom from there using a ship docked in port, and had been at sea ever since, where they met Shiromi and her familiar, and the rest is history. She listens as good as she can in the blazing heat, but it's getting to her and the girl needs water as soon as possible. Sharky appears just fine without any, which is a sweet taste of irony in the sandy wasteland. There's probably only one way to beat the Scorpion King that replaced Nupi's father, the legendary artifact, the Book of the Dead. One mythical legend later, and it's told that it would be needed again for the time when the Walking Dead would attack once again. Oh, like them zombies. After a long day of travel, Shiromi and Sharky are out looking for Nupi among the rocks of the desert and find her talking to the doll she always carries. It's moving and actually talks back. Sharky tries to rip it apart in surprise and self-defense, but this makes Nupi's tears begin to flow again, so Shiromi pulls a bold move and grabs it. The shark turns on her and out comes all that tomato soup she had for dinner, spelling out as very familiar modern phrase on the wall. YOLO boys, you only live once. We get to see Noopy's history in another short flashback, her mother being the one that cared for her. The woman was taken by illness and her father was never worth anything because of the harshness he put to his daughter. But her passion reignited the moment Sharky had scared her back to life, basically jumpstarting her emotions by way of fear. Deciding to pull an Aladdin, Shiromi can show her the world on a magic shark ride through the plains of fantasy Egypt. And for the first time, the princess genuinely smiles. Arriving at the Maya dungeon the next day, everyone strips. Wait, what? Ryder, are you sure? Oh, it's swimsuits. Okay then. Shiromi is given a necklace with an air enchantment, making her even more of an airhead. But before anyone can proceed towards the pyramid built amidst an oasis, an explosion rocks the sand beneath them, and someone with a rather rich and powerful tone remarks, "It's only at this level and you're already trembling in fear. Aren't you underestimating the dungeon a bit?" As the sandy storm settles, who do they see but a tiny boy and his 6 girls who are twice his size? Here we go again, Shota edition. Shumin Naruke, an S-ranked hero who met with Truck-kun and brought a smartwatch with him. Not to be confused with smartphones, you know? He takes a fancy to the gorgeous Noopy and wants her to be in the harem. But the cold glare and even icier words throw him off and make the women behind him just laugh like teenage girls. He's been chosen by the legendary smartwatch weapon. Strongest hero, blah blah. Let's see here, where's the action? Ah, there it is. They ignore the tiny brat and move down into the water anyway, Sharky taking point. He also gets a new coat of paint midway through their entrance to the dungeon, becoming practically albino, which Noopy really enjoys. Bastith asks what's with the new shade, but this is his first transformation into this form, so she has no idea. Now riddle him this. What's the point of a 4-ton white shark that has a giant brain? You tell me, Captain, since it seems so obvious. So apparently this mode is what allows Waterhead here to see like the eyes of God. Nothing can hide from him. He goes swimming away from the group. The kid has taken out a guard and one of his girls goes to retrieve the Book of the Dead. But Sharky has other plans. A painful death for her by piercing as she comes crashing through his solid wall. And while the brat charges his ultimate cannon move to take out the menace, his arms are cut off by a trap and the watch spins around in the water to face him instead. I swear, this goddess that lets them reincarnate is Lady Karma, and I'm all here for it. Now, what the girls swimming away don't seem to realize while they are in full panic mode is that this is a dungeon. A dungeon is typically full of, what? Traps. The second girl to die gets squished by the exit door. Wish Valve would fix that already. And the third is mauled to death by you-know-who. The fourth gets caught in a spike trap while trying to swim away to safety. 4 down, 2 to go. Om nom nom, all your flesh is belong to me. After the gang crosses a perilous dungeon without the cheating, they reach the Book of the Dead. Shiromi holds it up in victory, and the dumb shark thinks it's a chew toy. Above ground, his royal annoyance has arrived. With the item they came all this way for now destroyed in Shiromi's hands, the soldiers are much less than pleased even though it isn't her fault. How did they miss that giant white shark taking a bite out of it? All she did was a victory pose. Without that book, the entire pyramid begins to fall apart, and they need to leave, like low-key now. The air rings are about to run out, and they have no tunnels left to escape through. Sharky calls everyone over, and they all follow Noopy, albeit a bit begrudgingly. They all gather up on the center pedestal, and a cage is triggered to fall on them, trapping the group there. Sharky then grabs the bottom in its mouth, and with all his strength, swims up. The cage isn't to trap them, it's to keep them safe from the dangers of ascending. Smart shark. Smarter than that watch. They all burst the top of the temple as the place crumbles below them, landing on the sand with enough force to shatter the cage, yet somehow not enough to break their bones and bodies from the impact. Shiromi checks that everyone is still alive, and yes, they all are. But Noopy is oddly silent. She's relishing the experience of actually being able to feel something in her chest again, the heart racing and pulse battering away in her veins. They should offer thanks to the shark for providing such an experience. I'm not even gonna question this anymore. But that's odd. They can't find the troops that were left behind on the surface anywhere. Where would they have gone off to? The king's aura from that smile sends shivers down Noopy's spine. The Scorpion King and a segment of the demonic army had arrived on field, and they were lusting after carnage. He commends them on surviving that hellish dungeon. Noopy calls them all together while the rest are panicking about what to do. She can still feel energy radiating from what's left of the book, and asks wholeheartedly with a smile that Shiromi and Sharky help her out by distracting the king for long enough that she can do her thing. With a full smile on her face, she will reward everyone for helping her later. With morale going through the heavens, Sharky begins his attack, but as the demons regroup to try and kill Sharky with numbers, he uses Maya mode to activate any traps remaining in the sand. Whoever designed this pyramid was fluffing nuts. The rest of them resolve to defend the princess at any and all costs. Gotta shield that smile from the cruel world. She begins her work, having memorized the entire arcane knowledge from the book in the short time she had to read it. The Kingdom Royal Guards show what they're made of in battle, while one after another, they all get sent back to hell. Sharky charges the Scorpion King without so much as a second thought, and goes to face him directly, burning bright with the fever of battle and insatiable hunger for death. His jaw doesn't wrap around the king's body though, and the guy strong-arms Sharky into the air with a gargantuan-powered punch. It's enough to make Shark Brain spin from concussion, followed by a half-decent kick which sends him reeling over the edge of the heat haze. The shark just comes charging straight back for round 2, not giving a flying about how it may lose and reacting on instinct. Using Maya mode, it activates hidden traps in the sand and spikes hold the dude in place. He's cut clean in half this time and Sharky just cackles his own scary way, giving a thumbs down with his fin for the losing party. Did they just win this prematurely? No, of course not, as the scorpion tail appears right behind them and stabs Sharky in the back. He growls though so fiercely, but the poison is already starting to make its way through his system and do its work. Zombies arise from the dead on the other side, getting grips on the soldiers defending Noopy until they are cut back down to size. The scorpion dude reassembles himself like something out of Prototype, and this time he has metal for a head, which is oddly fitting. Death Gold. And can you guess what rank he holds? That's right, Demonic General. This is what, the 4th? Yeah, I think so. Anyhow, with Sharky now on the ground and Noopy being closed in on by a horde of vicious zombie mummies, Shiromi grows a set and tells the king that he's nothing but a ruse of one, a pirated copy, a fake. She refuses to acknowledge him as one, and furthermore, she wouldn't let the kingdom fall into the hands of someone like him. Sharky then wakes up and goes offensive with great speed, grabbing and ripping the general in two with one clean motion. Of course, that won't kill him yet. But it's too late for the sea creature. He's ingested too much golden poison and would turn into a mummy sooner or later. But just as all hope seems lost, Noopy finally completes her little spell with the bound book, and a column of light tears through the sky, evaporating the undead from moments ago. She keeps on talking and the spell takes its effects, sending out a jackal of the underworld to grab onto the Scorpion King and take him back to where he belongs. Another burst of light emits from his body, and at first it seems like he'd been utterly defeated. But by my language here, you know that he just pops up behind them again, this time going for Noopy. Sharky sputters and coughs, foaming at the mouths while that general is about to exercise his right to exorcise humanity from the plane of existence. Death comes forward to combat the king and buy enough time for them to escape. Shiromi telling the girl to grab her hand before it's too late. Spoiler, it is too late. The king knocks them both aside so only he is facing his little daughter. But this time the book has no other effects. One use only, I guess. He destroys what remains of it and grabs her at the throat by his pincers. The king congratulates her on finding some attachment to this sorry excuse of a world, finally stepping out from Mama's shadow. With that, he takes her abroad his royal elephant and the demon army retreats, having gotten what they wanted evidently. Because they had taken such good care of his daughter, he'd give them a good send-off. Ashes to ashes, trash to trash, sand to sand. Bwah ha 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 ha. But in a last-ditch effort, Sharky wakes up with what little strength he has left and actually rips one of his own 3 heads off with the jaw and neck strength of another. Eating it at his royal pain in the butt, the head goes flying toward him and the goons try warning their leader but fail in all due time. While he was concerned about them forgetting his title of king, the elephant is chopped down by a flying shark head. Yeah, sounds about right for this world. A shark head that detonates no less, engulfing the king and Noopy in a fiery extinction. The head is kicked away and it rolls down a sand dune as the scorpion Deuce climbs out from the flames, Noopy nowhere in sight. Please don't tell me he granted her wish. With Shiromi still stuck screaming for her life inside the tornado of sand, she's getting cut down to size by every little passing grain, and is without the one thing that could protect her, the not-so-loyal familiar. Instead of trying to scramble out of this on her own though, the girl just slowly comes to accept her fate in this cruel world. She apologizes for annoying the dead shark with her words, and with tears in her eyes, says that it's okay. She'd be joining him in the other world soon enough. A familiar parrot flies over the scene holding a bottle in its clutches, the cyclone of sand raging on in the middle of nowhere while the skies are clear blue. Eagle 20, Fox 2, it chants, dropping the bottle. A few seconds later, it blows up and rips the tornado a new one, dispersing it to reveal the half-dead Shiromi and what remains of her pet. Looking up, all she can see is the sky, the parrot, and a familiar face. The dude who had made her pancakes? What? Towing something heavy across the desert by way of camel, the chef makes his way back to a gigantic city located in the center of the desert plains and pulls up to the gate where the guards ask for clearance in order to pass. They nod and say this depend on their mood, which could be swayed by the giving of something nice and shiny. You want clearance? Alright then boys, how about you hold him and his giant stinking shark head up at the gate? Raw fish don't smell too nice, does it? Yeah, that's what I thought. The place they are in is the golden city of Hamu in a country whose name I still refuse to try pronouncing. You cannot make me. But as well as it is the heart of an economic and militaristic boom, it is also the heart of a deep-seated corruption which is overtaking the land at a rate of knots, making the shark head vomit up Shiromi, Bazdeath, and Chiki, Noopy's precious doll. The chef admits that they are the only ones who may be able to save this country from extermination. Waking up inside to baby shark bouncing on her, "James, I will shoot you." Shiromi is confused at the sight. The cook brings her a drink while the girl wakes up from her nap and says that he's called Sherman, but they could just call him Preach. Sounds about right. Dude got that anime church pastor vibe. Apparently, the explanation for Sharky being alive is as simple as you'd come to expect from this manga. He'd ripped off the head that wasn't poisoned and suspended its animation. Soon as Preach gave it some food, the regeneration started. He had also saved another person, Bazdeath, who was just in the next room. He tells Shiromi to bug her off because he's busy talking to Chiki, and it's clear the dude has lost his sanity or what was left of it. Then the girl makes the mistake of mentioning Noopy, and Hector comes out of the woodwork with Miku Twintails to put him back to sleep. The fairy is not happy at seeing her shark in the slightest, and blames it for everything that's happened to her. She's straight up refusing to leave the country with that thing following her not far behind. Wait, leave the country? They want to just abandon Noopy? They don't have much choice. They would be facing an immortal king otherwise, and the one thing they believed could save them, the Book of the Dead, had been utterly destroyed. Noopy got abducted because none of them were strong enough to save her. Sharky disagrees with some very colorful language. I swear, this is just a certain shark VTuber with an even fouler mouth. And while they all tell Sharky that it's useless to fight, what does he do but come up with yet another mode specifically designed to counter the Scorpion King? Leaping to the palace of the Scorpion King, he's trying actively to be a better parent and more of a friend to Noopy, now that she has strength. But the girl isn't biting on his bait. She recites a line from a book she read when she was 7, and he remarks once more at her innate intelligence. Certainly didn't come from you. But riddle from this, if he was really the fake king and some undead creature with no soul which replaced her father, why didn't the Book of the Dead work on him? Simple, because he still got a soul. See, he ate the original Scorpion King, and they merged together into what is now the moron before her. The undying body of a scorpion and the strong mortal body of the king Imhotep. What he wants is not to obey the demon lord or become the ruler of this very country, but to rule the world, and he could stand with her atop it all. They could do this as father-daughter bonding time. Their lineage and ideals would be known everywhere. While Noopy may have held fear for this man, she had also contained respect for him as the embodiment of what a king should have been. But with that expression and the countless innocents he's slewn to get to this point, she just can't see him as the person she used to love anymore. He doesn't fit the qualifications of a king. The scorpion tail wraps around her and lifts Noopy high into the air, ranting about how that girl had said the same thing and so had her mother. Her mother? Sore spot much? Yeah, very. And much to her displeasure, he had lied about the illness she was burdened with. He had killed her himself. This little meeting and Noopy crying is interrupted by a shark washing up from the bathwater. With that kind of hole, it should be completely dead. Yet it gulps his head down. Speaking of head, get yours out of the gutter. The full team arrives to play around with the evil king. Ain't no dream nor illusion. Shiromi is all smiles and happy while Sharky just gruffs proudly that he's come to the rescue, Noopy crying again. The king is absolutely drunk with rage that the shark he had killed was still kicking. Noopy tries to make them run, but Sharky has way too much pride to back away from a fight like this. They would rely on his strength to get through the ordeal that lay ahead, and put an end to this farce once and for all. Shiromi grips her wand tightly, and while holding it up, Sailor Moon style yells, "Activate zombie mode!" Sharky does so in a matter of a few seconds, and suddenly the air don't feel so fresh in here. The stink is something unreal, and they even ask if Shiromi done goofed things up again. Ignoring the weirdness that's going on behind Noopy's estranged eyes, odd princess this one, the king will send this group to the afterlife himself. Yelling for his minions to stop gawking about and actually do something versus the intruders, the boys get to action while Sharky's tongue extends out like a snake or worm of some sick kind to grab Shiromi. She's yeeted onto his back where he can protect her and give orders. Then he charges headlong into battle. Sharky makes the same mistake as the first time down here, but the king still has all his strength, and as he says, had proven that he could throw down and win by the last battle. In the last battle, you had to worry about a sharktopus coming after you, mate. Now it's something that can match you in power somehow. The king has a great big hole put through his torso, and even more scorpion tails come flying out of nowhere to stab his body repeatedly, injecting the golden poison that had won him a victory before. Did you somehow miss the part about this being an undead shark? As the big brute just laughs it off, the king realizes there's no circulation in his body. The goons are now after Noopy and company. Thus the girl holds out her cherished friend and doll while begging her mother to protect them from the afterlife. Her manaji, their version of mana, flows through its fabrics, and the mummy kid grows to match the opposition. His royal annoyance even tries slicing the shark in half to stop its fighting, but again, zombie! After a moment of appearing dead under the moonlight, Tendrils and muscles shoot out of each part and twine back together in an unholy dance, which pulls all pieces back to their hole. On his turn, Sharky sprays the entire enemy squad and their king with acid from his tongue. And while at first it seems to do nothing, the goons start melting in nothing short of a horror sequence. It's like a scene straight out of the Gate of Hell itself. May as well be. And ignoring the flood of useless information on magical sharks being apex predators, please don't ask. Chapter 21 ends with the king being melted by acid. Truly, one of the most horrible ways for a person to die. With the Scorpion King now dead, Sharky has completed his mission yet stays in the disgusting form for a wee bit longer. Oh wait, no? He ain't dead yet? No, and neither are the zombies. Seems like they have an actual enemy this time around. The zombies are climbing Sharky without hesitation and trying to eat it. The demon scorpion's logic here is that if you're all gobbled up, then you can't exactly regenerate. Oh, is that so? So he just needs to swallow you whole. Either way, the aquatic menace is having a hard time shaking these fluffers off him. But it doesn't seem like he has to. Oh no. What is it this time? Why have the zombies stopped moving? Sharky just grins that horrible smile while the king watches as his servants begin to violently shake, vibrating more than your mom's ow! Ugh, can't have any fun around here. Moving on, they froth at the mouth and begin to steam up the area. As mist pours from what remained of bodies, the king witnesses something so bizarre that our writer is having a migraine trying to comprehend the logic. Sharkmen. Frickin' Sharkmen. They have foul mouths like the one they came from. Only 3 possess vocal cords enough to speak. I like to imagine them as surfer dudes. They see the king as a snack, and I don't need to tell you what happens to him from then on. Let's just say I was right on the money. The mummified cloth unwraps from Noopy's body and she bids her father goodbye, asking him to be kind to the estranged mother now residing with Anubis. Noopy chimes that everything is now over and the evil atmosphere that once clouded their brilliant city has ceased to exist. She hugs Shiromi as a thank you and both Sharky and the tiny tot of a master begin to weep tears of joy. Then they run into a rather big problem. Okay, scratch that. A lot of rather big problems. Remember that army of Sharkmen? They're still lingering and still very much hungry, to the point they chase Shiromi and the others out off the palace. Sharky is begged to hurry the fluff up and call off those shark people things, whatever the heck they're supposed to be, and restore some normality. But he either can't or refuses to. Of course. Wherever the shark goes, tragedy must follow. These cretin rampage through the streets and prove Hector right, as all the normies are either eaten alive or transformed in an endless cycle as the night draws on. Nobody and no one is safe from the mountain of... damn, wish I could say that word. With the former golden city aflame and burning to the ground amidst an endless night sky of rocky dunes and sand, Bastet is on his knees wondering how it could have all come to this in a heartbeat. If you didn't see it, you really wouldn't believe it. But Noopy takes the different approach and sees this as more of a gift from the god of death and his companion. The nation city was purged by them of the filth that had once dominated its walls, among which her father was the worst offender. This is nothing but the holy light of purification. How many more marbles is this chick going to lose? How much more sanity does she have? More to the point. Doesn't really matter at least, because this dreaded arc is over with and Shiromi goes flying off in Sharky's back in the tornado mode. Hector holds onto her hair while the trio of doom blasts off to another country. Noopy promises that this land will be reborn into a country that reveres the legendary shark, and very high above them, the goddess watches and says Shiromi did well? Oh, please don't tell me. Yeah, by those eyes and her words, even the goddess is crazy. Her eyes roll back in ecstasy at the destruction, and she vows to put all the tastiest prey in front of him by chance. This chick might just be worse than the damned demon lord. Okay, what's next on their list of wanton destruction? Well, according to the map, it's the Darkwater Castle, a place built to hover over a giant hole in the ocean, or as the more common folk would like to call it, the Demon Lord's Castle. Universal Shepaland. I cannot make this stuff up if I tried. Also, those bridges should be collapsing, not holding up a massive stone structure. The common soldiers below are chanting, "All hail the Demon Lord! All hail the Demon Lord!" while Davy Show is walking over them on a bridge. They're here because these 3 bird brains have the most experience with the shark and are the only surviving members of any party he's encountered with. Entering the castle, we meet another of the generals, A-Room, who has his pet sharks go AWOL and try to eat Davy Show alive. But the jester is in for a real laugh as one of his little pets is split in half on the show floor, burning up before his very eyes. A familiar voice in skull walks in with the swagger of his leather jacket. "Hey Davy, what's wrong? Did your desk job make you an impotent cripple?" There's only one dude with that much bravado. Zeldin is back from the bloody grave, and this time he is here to stay. I'd repeat the Demon Lord's words, but censored. Every single general has been called back and into his personal quarters to explain one thing. What on earth was that damn shark he kept hearing about? Skipping the movie section because there's nothing interesting about it. The Demon Lord Shepherd very quickly gets a grip on the power level of this little spanner in their works, and I don't think he's very happy about it. More sane questions are asked by the other generals like, I'm not a marine biologist, but are sharks really capable of such? And why is there a shark on land? With variations on the demon generals taking the piss out of this while trying not to laugh like idiots or get a headache. This looks so cheaply done that it may as well get its own B-movie because it sure as hell don't contain an A-rank team. You like jazz? The lolly who worked the film projector asked their leader what he thinks of this piece of marine meat, as even the Scorpion King, I'm sick of saying that, who had been given pseudo-immortality was defeated by some clever means. All the guy can say is that the shark came from another world. Seems the dumb blonde of a country bumpkin girl who's always with him is the summoner. But how is that possible? Surely someone like her couldn't bring about something that powerful and unrestrained. Yeah, that's because there's an outside force of some kind giving her aid. If that's what you want to call the torture she's gone through, then yeah, aid. But how was Zeldin still alive after 100% being swallowed by the lava shark? He kneels before his lord and delivers the most damning story to the Demon Lord. In a twist of irony big enough to completely infuriate their leader, he says that he woke up and found himself on the beach after being revived by a mysterious lady in the sky. The Demon Lord crushes his bottle of wine, and the entire building shakes from his rage, as the goddess had interfered with his plans one more time. The jester gets suggested into the wall by a plain fist, his face done in by the impact force. For now, they would have to start acting quickly by destroying the Gallios magic empire, where the remainder of humanity has gathered. Zeldin and Bukijagi, two of the generals, would prevent Sharky and Shirome from reaching this empire before their invasion and destruction was completed. The two bow to their king, and all cogs begin to turn on full tilt. Shirome, meanwhile, is wailing away on the back of her summon. Unknowing the goddess who had forced this cruel twist of fate on her and utterly destroyed her life, she recognizes the irreversible damage she had done to the continent they left behind. All she wants to do is help, but all that ends up happening is wanton destruction on the mega scale. And at this point, even Hector is beginning to feel pity for the poor girl. She can't even punish the shark for all his misdeeds, wasting all her energy trying. While asleep, she meets the goddess again. The goddess of shark dozing, that is. Shirome assumes that because she had practically murdered a whole kingdom twice over, the goddess must be pretty peeved with her. On the contrary, sharks leap up from the clouds below them with fireworks in their mouths, exploding and showering everything with unpleasant imagery. Boy, am I glad this isn't black and white. She's told she has done well thus far, and continued to feed Sharky all the food he could wish for. This was truly the work of a savior, and the best result she could ask for. I cannot read any of this with a straight face, I'm sorry. The goddess is told to please wait just a damned second. Was this about doing well? What was she on about? Rather, what was she smoking, period? To be saying such things. As said before, 2 entire kingdoms were butchered, many important structures demolished, and capital cities lay in ruin because of this bloody familiar. Instead of agreeing with her like any sane person would, the goddess just grabs the leftover remains of a shark tail and slaps Shirome across the face with it. That's as close to a middle finger as she's gonna get in this universe, the poor darling. She's blatantly lied to and told that the Demon Lord is interfering with her power, and as soon as he's dead, the world can be restored and everything will go back to how it was. She's given her final directions toward the nation of Gallios and gobbled up in the dream. When awake, she's throwing confetti that just magically appeared, I guess, and Hector is asking what the fluff it is this time. After she's explained everything, the two spot the huge mountains dead ahead, or they will be soon, and the place they are looking for is just beyond the Buki range. But before Sharky can go full speed ahead for it, they're stopped and interrupted by one of those generals, Bukijagi and his harem of rabbit girls. Yeah, the title of Mad Machine really fits the bill here. According to him, Sharky will fall by the word of the Great Demon Lord. I'd like to see you try. Apparently these bunny suit jetpack wearing chicks aren't just any old humans that he found lying around. They are machinery themselves, and pretty high spec ones at that. Charging their energy cannons, Sharky and the gang go hide and seek in the clouds. When they show their faces again, the girls are to blast every single shred of life out of them. But when they do eventually peek the misty whites, it's a mouthful of blood and dead robo girls that he happened to run into along the way in. All lasers converged on his location, and Shirome's staff lights up a new one, which is the signal we've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Robo Shark. With the development of it evolving far faster than was reportedly possible, it just floats there menacingly while Hector wonders how it can even fly without visible propulsion. Shirome is also gone and the bunny girls take positions to line up their shots again. Unfortunately for them, the anti-aircraft system notices the little maggots in the sky beside it and engages in rampant hostility. Mini sharks. I'm an SDMG user myself. Deploy from the hole and come flying at them like bullet bills. Replications of Sharky flying by way of a local Sharknado. I don't even. It's not long before these missiles manage to sink their teeth into the woman. And then the baby sharks blow up while making Gura noises. Explosions ring across the air before the shark who had created them. leaving the master of those dolls to watch as his life's work evaporates in a few short seconds with gruesome expressions. As the pieces fall out of the sky, so too do they take small bits of his remaining heart with them, and the once insane robot general goes haywire while one of the only remaining girls gets dunked on. The missiles reload and refire as they try taking up positions for a third time to prepare a weak attack. Not learning any lessons because why would they on their deathbeds? Hector passes the baton to one of the girls she passes, and the shark explosive latches to her instead. Shiromi's voice echoes from inside the RoboShark through a speaker of some kind. She's in the pilot seat with all kinds of machinery surrounding her, from joystick controls and button panels to 3 screens that display the surroundings among other things. Does it have Wi-Fi though? It's not long later when the last of the frontal assault bunny girls are dispatched by nose lasers, but the underside is guarded by a Gao-8 turret. Ba-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta! And ignoring an annoying lore dump, Zeldin and Bukijagi have no choice but to let them through the border line. Sharky has now spotted Bukijagi and fires full thrust to get to him, Shiromi screaming the entire time to be let out. The head then detaches and begins spinning like Gurren Lagann with her inside it. Who thought it was a good idea to put the cockpit inside the spinning part? Her face mashes into a button labeled absolutely, positively, never ever push. And if you've seen any measure of evil scientists, you know what the big red button does. Bukijagi tries to hold back the shark, but it's useless against the apex predator. Mountains are ripped clean through and the general is pinned in a crater when the timer hits 0 with Shiromi still inside. Remember how the shark turned into a nuke? Yeah, that. Hector gets heavy deja vu. I just been in this place before. Oh, sorry. Deja vu from the shark-shaped explosion. Someone please count how many times I say shark. I beg of you in the comments. I need to know. Both Shiromi and Sharky survive the onslaught and come down on a parachute. A miracle both are still alive. But when you got a deranged goddess vying for world destruction, I guess miracles are silver-spooned. Our heroes? Is it okay to call them that? Probably not. Our little ragtags cross the large open mountain ahead of them, and over the ridge, a sight for sore eyes awaits. The Crystal Plains. So, bunch of rocks in the ground, gotcha. Of course, the first thing Shark does is eat one or try to. Hector explains that the Manaji of the earth had crystallized and this was all the proof needed that they were now in the land of Gallios, as it's the only place with a high enough concentration for this to happen. These crystals can be harvested for magical tool making and decoration usage. Even her own staff was made here, and it has the brand tag and the magical operating system to show for it. Wonder what they call it? Shark Dose? But while the tiny fairy is trying to lecture Shiromi on how the goddess would never show herself to someone like her, Shark Boy smells some delicious treats nearby and bounces over to investigate. A magic hot spring awaits them across the way, and everyone is ecstatic at the chance to finally rest and recoup their strengths in a warm, friendly place that Sharky hasn't destroyed. Yet. I was gonna skip reading this part, but one of the poor dudes has his, I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. The poor dude has his magnum opus removed from the lower half, and Sharky once more goes on a killing spree of the normies who infest the waters he wants to bathe in. Everyone is confused and shocked at news spreading of a shark in the waters. Thus, they leave out of safety. The hot springs are run red and they are the only people around. Blissful peace and quiet at long last. As they haven't noticed the dead bodies still laying around here, Hector explains away the color of the waters as iron-infused oxidation. In short, extremely good for their health. I guess you could call it a bloodbath. Ow, okay, ow, alright, I get it. Bad pun's not welcome. When Shiromi next says that she's hungry, Sharky wastes no time in diving below the waters to retrieve the egg basket of boiled hot spring goodness. I just love me some blood-soaked eggs. They should be safe for now at least, though. Or not, by the clawed hand reaching out of the water at her and the sound of a mysterious bell. Now, she faces that Jester General in his own dreamland, the dreaded A-Room. 1, 2, a room's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door, sings the most annoying clown I've ever had the displeasure of witnessing. So by the looks of it, Shiromi is trapped in a nightmare. The demons have Hector, specifically the one she mind-controlled and hates, and Sharky is dead asleep in the waters of the hot springs, probably terrorizing some other planet. Not really seeming to take the hint because she lacks anything resembling a brain beyond cognitive functions, and even then she still fails sometimes. Shiromi calls out for Hector and her boy only to get no reply. It's basically forced down her throat that this is a dream world. Oh no. Phrasing. Not that way, you degenerates. She somewhat struggles to comprehend that this is just a dream, because it probably looks so real in her monkey mind. Though with the way he's effortlessly throwing her around like the goddess had in the real world, I'd say that much is fair. If she dies down here, her mind will cease to function in the real world as well, making her effectively brain dead. Well, more so than usual. Hector, meanwhile, is trying to get away from her crazed fanboy. His buddies want her to cure him as back in their hometown, these boys were a single unit and best buds wherever they went. So the demons have more soul than fluffing humans? I'll believe anything at this point, including the outright lie that Hector's friends were good children. I'm not sure we can show that. Not Nicolas Cage puts his hand on the shoulder of the one holding Hector, and we jump back to Shiromi in her death dream, running away from the now giant jester who keeps on singing his little song. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. I'll take your entire stock. 7, 8, can you stay awake? 9, 10, never sleep again. By the sound of that horrible little bell, she trips and falls to the floor right in front of a metal drainage grate. The face of A-Room appears from the sewers. Hiya, Georgie, want your boat back? But even when face to face with him and clearly being toyed with, he teaches her the way out and she reacts like nothing more than a brainless child. He even tells her to reach out her hand, because maybe the extraordinary girl like her can stop the bell just by touching it with some mystical power. Spoiler alert, it's a trap, and he grabs her at the wrist to eat the girl alive. Dangling her over his wide open mouth like Sharky to everything else in the series, Zeldin comes flying out of the sidelines and breaks A-Room's skull a second time with his flaming kicks. I regret nothing.